Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 6
Hello.
of the 12 Days of Chocolatey. Hey, Stevie, how you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
Awesome. So, quick recap, of course, for those of us joining for the first time, the 12 Days of Chocolatey is, of course, a 12-day event put on by the Chocolatey software team, where for an hour a day, we share some chocolatey goodness with you, and that includes talks, webinars, discussions, Q&A, new feature announcements, and as well, a chance to win prizes every day. So feel free to stay tuned and chat along, and we'll drop the survey at some point, and then you can possibly win some prizes. So today we're going to be exploring the Chocolatey for Business quick deployment environment. And for this, I have the distinct pleasure once again of being joined by my PowerShell brother from another mother, Stephen Valdinger, aka Stevie Coaster. Hey, Stevie.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you, sir?
Excellent. Happy to be here.
Rock on. So a couple of announcements here. I'm just going to try and see if we switched over to a new browser to try and solve some of the issues we had yesterday, folks. So just making sure that I can share the screen properly for you here. Let me just move this over and see if this works here. I'm going to allow that. And seems to want to change some things. Just bear with me one sec, folks. Okay. You know what, Stevie? Why don't you speak to quick deployment environment for a little bit, and I'll hop on and I'll hop right back on.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So today's session, we're going to be focusing on our quick deploy environment appliance. This appliance is all of the Chocolatey infrastructure you need to run and be successful using Chocolatey in your environment on one convenient VM. We shipped this appliance, the very first version, back sometime in our May-June timeframe, right around when the world fell apart due to COVID is when this came out. And it gives you the ability, whether you're using VMware or Hyper-V or Azure, AWS, you have the ability to get a copy of our appliance that works in either of those environments and be able to really quickly stand up the appliance in your environment using Chocolatey, etc. So today's session, what we're going to be doing is walking through setting up that appliance from scratch, and configuring a client machine to use all of these services that are available on that quick deploy environment appliance, and kind of walk you through all the different services that are on there and give you a really good overview of this thing. And then if you want to try it out, test it out, or let us know if you're already using it, any pain points you've had, let us know that in the chat as well. We're always looking to iterate this stuff. So yeah, that's more or less what we're going to get into today. And as soon as I get that green light to jump on here, that's exactly what we'll do.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Stevie. Can you hear me okay? I'm just going to hop over and see that the screen is sharing properly now. Awesome. That's great. At least we have it up. I'm going to make sure this is full screen here, and we'll move on. Awesome, great. So, some announcements first of all that I want to get through. So, yesterday we had some technical difficulties. We are working on it and making it better, folks. Please bear with us for some of that stuff. We're tweaking some of our settings on the fly as we go. So hopefully we won't run into as many issues today with the streaming part of it, and you can hear us well. The additional part of that is also, of course, we had some questions at the end that we couldn't get to. So we want you to send in the questions so we can make sure we answer them on the right days. Day 9 has a Chocolatey integrations discussion, specifically on Puppet, Chef, and some of the other platforms that you can integrate with, including SCCM and Intune. We'll touch on that as well. In addition to that, Day 12 has a Q&A panel session. So that Day 12 session is going to be great for everybody to be able to add those questions on that you maybe didn't get answered in the chat at the time that you did. So that's an important point to make, is if you don't get something answered that you think you do, you can get it now. Stevie, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, perfect, awesome, we're good. Great. Just want to confirm because we don't want to run with what we did yesterday. So important points there is we do read that feedback there, so please do continue to give us the feedback when you can. When we are working on some future plans here for this stuff as well, to hopefully have live sessions regularly during the month, maybe a couple times a month or more, just to sort of continue to get feedback from our users and our customers, so that we continue to like iterate and develop and be sure we're working on the right features for you and not just working on features in a silo. So thank you for your feedback. We appreciate it, and we'll continue to take it into consideration. So moving on here, pop into the next slide, talk about the agenda a little bit. So firstly, I'm just going to touch on the QDE architecture just a little bit. I want to give as much time to Stevie as we can to present. I know that I got that feedback thing. We took a little bit of a time, and it's a lot of deep dives. So for sure, we're going to try and do as much as we can. We may run a little bit over in terms of schedule, but I just want to make sure that we give you enough time for QDE, because QDE is a big feature of ours for sure. So I'm going to touch on the architecture, then we're going to talk about supported hypervisors real quick, and then we'll hop right into the demo. And Stevie will actually do a complete setup of QDE from scratch, essentially just having the VM up and running that script and getting going. And then he'll touch on the components and the usage of QDE. We'll give you some links at the end, and again, we'll have that conclusion and Q&A time. So feel free to hop on in there and hop into the chat and give us some questions too. So without further ado, I'm just going to do a quick summary of sort of the architecture of what QDE is. You can see this graphic on our website. It's just from the QDE page in our docs. So essentially, all those little bits and components of a generally distributed QDE environment or Chocolatey environment are all rolled up into one VM image. And that VM image can be available on certain hypervisors for you to make it easy for you to at least have a demo or a POC of our product nice and easily in your environment. So this is specifically for Chocolatey for Business. But a lot of the feature set, like package builder and package internalizer, that you'd be doing on an admin workstation running on there, our automation pipeline here of Jenkins. In addition to that, we have the repository server. In this case, in QDE, it's Sonatype Nexus, OSS, and in addition to that, Chocolatey Central Management, our web dashboard, to give you that powerful reporting, as well as monitoring your different individual endpoints and what packages they have installed, if any are out of date. And as of June of this year, now we have deployments built into CCM. So now we also give you a mechanism to be able to deploy to your endpoints once you get them checked into CCM. So all of that is rolled into one image that we can provide to you. Now, some of the supported hypervisors that we have, VMware, VMDK, we have VMware VMDK image that's supported for VMware VSX, ESX, vCenter, vCloud Director. It can also be used as a drop-in with VirtualBox as well. It's available on Hyper-V as an appliance and also a disk image, 2 approaches. And there's a QDE Setup doc that walks you through some of these platforms and how to set up our image there too. And of course, we have an Azure VHD as well, and we give you a couple of helper scripts that Paul Broderick has helpfully built for us to be able to convert and upload it into our Azure tenant, so you can get it up and running on the cloud as well. And we, of course, have an OVF image. The OVF image is the one that you can probably, the OVF and the VMDKs are the popular ones to sort of build up on other platforms as well. So users have used the OVF and the VMDK to convert using QCOW2 or something else to KVM or Nutanix or one of the other platforms as well if you wanted to. We are working on more versions, but these are currently, as of this day, what we support in terms of QDE. So if you have any of these running even locally in a lab, it's a good way to test out Chocolatey for Business with QDE. So I'm going to slide over here now to the demo part and let Stevie speak to this. Stevie?
Awesome. All right, so I'm just going to slide over to my appliance here. I've got a quick deploy environment. This is running in Azure. So, and this appliance, as of yet, has not been properly set up and configured. So what you see on the screen here is the desktop README that ships on the appliance whenever you go to boot this thing up. Have a quick look on the desktop there once you're logged in, and you'll have all the instructions that you need to get this thing fully up and running. And we've already done a couple of things, so I'm not going to do everything in this list. I'm going to skip over a couple of parts, but we will do the actual setup of the VM as well. So I've already completed the prerequisites of getting the license on the box and all that good stuff, and done several things here. Expanded the disk size. The host name is what I want it to be. I've added my Chocolatey license to the machine here in step 1. You can see I've got my license file properly applied. I've changed the host name, as I've said, and I'm prepared now to run the set QDE environment PS1 script. There's a couple different flavors of the QDE setup script, depending on your particular use case. The first one that we highlight here, if you run this verbatim, this is the default. If you don't have your own third-party or internal CA provided SSL certificate, or you run this command here, will generate a self-signed certificate for you as part of the setup. I am not going to go this route. I am actually going to go the route of the custom certificate, but I am going to copy this code. And I'll just show you down here. We've got a couple of different flavors of the command that you can run if you bring your own certificate. So you can rather use the thumbprint of a certificate in the case of a wildcard, and then give it the DNS name that you want to use to connect all of your services. So if you have star.fabricam.com as the wildcard certificate, and you want to use chocoserver.fabricam.com as the host name for the services that are going to run on the box, so you would provide your thumbprint of that wildcard cert and then the subject or the DNS name of the server that you want to use there. Similarly, if you've got the subject, you can provide the subject from the certificate, and you don't actually need the certificate DNS name in that particular instance. It's just there on both of these examples. It will be ignored on the second one here. And then we've got all of the parameters that you can pass as part of that setup script documented on here. So I've got everything I need at the minute. I've already gone ahead. I've got my third-party SSL certificate installed into the local machine, my store, or the personal store of the server. This is a PFX certificate. It has to be a PFX certificate. There will be a link to the GitHub that we used. If you tuned in yesterday, we have a 12 Days of Chocolatey GitHub repository that I provided all of the example code from yesterday into that repository. Same rules apply here. I've got some code written that utilizes OpenSSL to generate CSRs with a private key. And then you can take that private key, and if your third-party cert happens to be like a P7B or a CER file, you can provide that certificate and that private key to the helper functions that will use OpenSSL to generate the PFX file that you need to complete the installation. So if you happen to have a third-party cert that's not a CER or P7B, look out for that and check that GitHub repository for that.
Hey, Stevie, just a quick chime in for a second. That's
Sure.
cool. Yeah, just getting some chatter in the chat specifically around different environments that this can be set up in, specifically regions in Azure. So I just wanted to call out real quick that the current VM we are running is actually a licensed VM on Azure right now, right? QDE?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So this is running in the West US 2 region. We built this, actually rebuilt it last night just to make sure it worked for this. And the certificate that Stevie's using right now, I just simply used Let's Encrypt to generate it. So it's nice and easy to use, and it's all free there, barring the, of course, cost of running an Azure VM on your machine. So this is literally a Windows 2019 image drop-in for Azure.
Cool. Awesome. So I've gone ahead and I've pasted in the command that I want to run, and I've added the certificate subject parameter to this command. I'm just going to go ahead and run this now. And this is going to set up everything that we need to get the SSL configuration applied to things like our Sonatype Nexus repository server that's installed on this server, and also get Chocolatey central management set up as well. And let me know if I need to make the size of the text either in my browser or in my PowerShell window a little bit bigger. It's kind of hard to scale remote desktop sessions. So if I need to scale that up, I can. And I'm just going to look at the chat. It looks like I need to make this a little bit bigger. So I will go ahead and do that. Let's bump this up to 28. And let's change this Lucinda console and make this a little bit bigger. There we go. So this is the longest part of the process here. We've got a 90-second wait on Nexus to give it time to fully boot up. What I like to do, since I'm a bit impatient at times, I'm kind of beholden to the time it takes for this hard timeout, but we should see Nexus start to increase in memory usage here. And once it gets to about 1400 megs, that's when you know that the Nexus is good to go. So it should climb relatively quickly here, and then that 90 seconds will expire and it will move on with the setup. Yeah, so it's going to set up a couple of things, and hopefully this pushes. Yeah, it did. Perfect. And hopefully this goes. We'll see. Yeah, it's going to go.
Yeah.
I think it's going to go. The timing of this is like interesting. It's interesting. Yeah, that's what I was afraid. I'm going to rerun it. It'll be fine. I didn't push that license, so it'll be fine.
Well, folks, you know that we do things live here, and this is cool because they're not loud with us.
Yeah.
So currently, the parts
probably needs more CPUs or something, if I had to guess.
So it's got 4 CPUs and 8 gigs.
Oh, that should be fine then. Yeah, that should be fine. Nexus is just being demo gods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair enough. So just to confirm what you're doing so far, though, you've got you're running that QDE environment script, and the parts that you're running from the beginning is just creating that license package and pushing it out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, exactly. And actually, let me just make sure that this isn't going to break anything. Program data. Let me just make sure that this file looks okay. Oh, what are you opening in? Yeah, exactly. That's what I was afraid of. It's going to redo that line.
Okay.
All right, cool. So that should be good. And then this should continue on.
Yeah, it's a little bit of hurry up and wait in these processes, but it is nice how that's just one script that you're running to get it all set up. This used to be lots of little scripts that you'd run in a certain order. So.
Yeah. I am going to have to rerun it one more time and be very fast about making a change to that configuration file. The demo gods are not happy with me today. Let me
just to reiterate for everybody, this is us doing certain things live and trying to push the system with having it running on an Azure image and connecting from a different region on the other coast. So that may have been some of this.
Yeah, it's not fun because, well, it worked just fine when we tested it.
Demo gods, yes. Yeah,
the demo gods are not liking me today. All right.
We didn't sacrifice enough goats.
Yeah. Let me do this. Let me get this prepped so I have exactly where I need to go. Modified. All right. There we go.
So folks, if you do run into something like this with QDE, it's important to know that Stevie and Ryan and some of our support team are available to support you in these instances, and this is what happens sometimes.
Yeah.
And we iron out those bugs pretty quickly for you, so don't worry about that. Just reach out to us.
Yeah, so that should be good. That will do that. And let's edit this with this and do this. And, ooh, did that save? That didn't save. Yeah, it did. That looks good. That looks good. That looks good. Okay. There. That should get it. As long as I was fast enough. We'll see.
Fingers crossed.
I'm going to answer a question that I just saw inside of the chat here. Dave is asking, can the Nexus repo be hosted on an SMB share to keep the VM size relatively normal? It can. So that blob store, which is what Nexus uses on the back end, is by default just going to look at the C program data, sonotype work, blob store location on disk. If you want to set that up to be somewhere else, you absolutely can. Like Nexus supports an S3 bucket as well. So if you wanted to set Nexus to use an S3 bucket, you absolutely can do that as well. And this thing is making me very angry. So
I'll let you do that stuff, Stevie. I'll just speak to this for a little bit. So the you can definitely move or place that blob store in a different location. Just recognize that what you're going to have in that store is not necessarily just new package files, NuGet package files. They will be there, but they won't be in a format that you can see, and that's because Nexus by default will encrypt those files in its own like storage format and against its own internal orient database. So every platform is different. Every sort of repository manager application is different in how they handle it. That's how Nexus does it. So it's not just plain new package files that you can store there that you could quickly move somewhere else easily. So if you're going to set up Nexus that way, it's best to probably do that from scratch right from the beginning and set your blob store location then, and then just use that going forward and expand as needed. So hopefully that addressed your question there, Dave.
Yeah. Let me just make sure that Nexus is fully running at this point. set anything else up. Some type work. Nexus 3. Just have a look. Yes, that's all fine. If we look at this etc SSL, that looks good.
So while Stevie's doing this, feel free to drop the questions in the chat about QDE. I'm happy to answer them. We get quite a few regularly, so it's always good to address anything that you'd like me to speak to. Skip the QDE scripts and custom build using them as a guide. So hey Dave, that's a great question. So I'll call it out in the chat here. So he was referencing specifically the other way to do this, to set up Nexus in a different environment using its own platform. You can reroute QDE's storage to be blob store for Nexus to be somewhere else if you wanted to. We also do offer something called the Quick Start Guide. So we have a Chocolatey for Business Quick Start Guide in our docs if you search for it, and I can drop a link to it in the chat as well. That's going to be specifically something you could use as a quicker way to sort of get up and running in a distributed infrastructure. What you're talking about is, having a separate place for your repo, a separate place for different pieces, and that can be a lot of what Gary talked about in day 4, I believe, which was specifically around more so Chocolatey in the organization and how to set up a distributed environment. So that's that video series, if is available at ch0.co/org if you'd like to take a look at it, as well as the Quick Start Guide is available in our docs as a good way to get up and running if you wanted to set up a distributed environment. But you can very much use Nexus on QDE and just point the blob store piece of it to a new location. Is that correct, Stephen?
Yeah, you can. Yep, absolutely.
I would recommend checking out the Nexus docs for that as well, because it's going to be slightly different on each different hypervisor type, or sorry, each different repository manager type. So thanks for the question, Dave. So how are we doing, Stevie? Do we maybe want to go to?
We're working on it.
Okay, cool.
We're working on it.
I'll leave you to it.
Yeah, we're working on it. I think I just got it, so we'll see.
Sweet.
This should level off, and it should start to calm down a little bit. Then it should connect. Choco server.ch0.8443. Yeah, to be honest with you, I might switch to a backup plan over here.
Okay.
Give me 1 second to get a snapshot. Okay. Just start this guy. Yeah, something else is going on with the server at the minute because Nexus is running fine. It just won't let me connect to it. I'm not sure why. Give me my mouse back. My mouse just disappeared. I'm booting another server. We're just going to do a different server. It already ran through the setup, so we can see what happened.
We can troubleshoot that offline.
Yeah. So I'm just going to bring this full screen and bring it over here. So long as it decides to show me a desktop. There we go. All right, so this one has already had that setup script run, and it's pretty much the exact same. It's the exact same server. It's just running local on my machine in VMware as opposed to running in Azure. So if we take a look on the file system here, as soon as things calm down, there we go. If we go to the C drive, and actually I have the ability to make this bigger. Let me just do that for everybody real quick. We've got this transcript.log file. And this transcript.log file is basically the output of that setup run. This is the part where Azure started to be cranky with us. And then after that, we set up central management. We configure everything else. And then we pop an out grid view window, which allows you to select the top 100 packages from the community repository and internalize those automatically.
Hey, Stevie. So
Yeah.
that script that you just showed on the screen, for me anyway, was looking a little pixelated. So I don't know if,
going to fix things here a little bit so it looks a little better. All right. Let me zoom in on this, and then we'll log into our Nexus repository. Are you serious? What is going on? I literally just shut this box down from using it for this. Choco server. Choco server.ch0.co. Yeah, it's fine. Oh, now it's going to work.
yeah, just decided that, Fun thing about Nexus is it's built on top of Tomcat, right?
Yeah. So this is...
There we go.
Yeah.
So we got our repositories there.
So this is what Nexus is supposed to look like once QDE is up and running. So we've got a couple of different repositories installed. We've got an install, a internal, and a test. We've got, if we take a look at this Choco install repository, this is a raw repository that hosts all the scripts for installing Chocolatey and setting up that client. And if we go over to the internal repository, this is all the stuff that's already on the box for you. All of the Chocolatey licensed packages, the latest versions of those are on here. This server also has a couple of additional things installed on it as well. I've gone ahead and I've got VLC, VS Code, Google Chrome, Firefox, 7-Zip, a couple of additional things from that window where you can select some packages to internalize. Those are all selected and internalized in here as well. The one thing that I have not done on the server is set it up for connecting over the internet without a VPN connection. When you first set up QDE, if you look at this different ways you can run that setup, there's also, if we look down here, this internet enabled parameter. This will apply some additional configuration to the server when you run it. That turns off anonymous authentication inside of Nexus for one. So doing things like seeing all these packages will no longer be possible unless you log in. It also applies some additional salt configuration items to the Chocolatey config to the server. And then also when you go to install the clients, you would pass some additional information to the client setup for those salts, such that when you're over the open internet before an agent checks in or does a deployment, we also validate that the salts on the server and the client match. So not only do you need valid SSL certificates, you will need Chocolatey to be configured with a username and password to authenticate to your Nexus repository source, which is also something you can pass to the client setup script. When you're rolling this out to clients, you also need those hash values as well. So I'm not going to go through the work of internet enabling this particular box. If the demo gods were going to be nice to us today, that VM running in Azure was going to be internet enabled, and then this client machine over here that's also running locally, I was going to run the setup on that via an internet enabled fashion so that you could see that working. But what we'll do today is just walk through all of the services here and then set up that other machine as a client so you can see how that all works. So I'll just log in next now that we've seen the Nexus repository.
Hey, Stevie.
Yeah.
Just to let you know, your stuff is coming through a little bit blurry. Not sure if we could do anything about that on this end. I've turned off my video and audio, so not sure.
Yeah, I've got everything turned off at this point, and yeah, I don't have any internet issues at the minute either that I can see. Oh, this is probably wrong. There we go. There we go. So this is what central management, when you first log into it, looks like. We have our deployments tab here, which is going to be empty. We have no deployments going on now. I have already created a group inside of here, so we should be able to click on this groups tab. Oh, really, this VM is being extremely slow. There we go. So I've created a group called server, and it's only got one machine in it. Because if we click on computers, I've only got this particular server checking into central management at the minute. If we click on that server, we can scroll into it and see all of the applications that are currently installed, all the current Chocolatey packages, rather, that are currently installed on this VM. And if we drop this down, we can see all 29 of them that we have. And then if we wanted to do software, we could see all of the software installed via Chocolatey across all of our machines that are currently reporting into Chocolatey Central Management. And then if we wanted to see everybody that's got this ASP.NET package, for example, we could drill into it and it would list out all of the computers that currently have that particular Chocolatey package installed. And if any of these were outdated, this would say yes and be red and would bubble up to the top of the list. So you always see the out-of-date packages at the very tip top of your list. We also have the ability to do some reporting inside of here, outdated software reports and deployment reports. Those are all available. You can generate those inside of here and then export those out to PDF or Excel if you want to. And as you can see, I've already ran one deployment from this particular server earlier today. And you can see if I wanted to, I could export this report out to PDF or Excel. We also have in the latest version of Central Management an API. So if we were to click on this, we've got this nice Swagger doc where you can see all the different API endpoints that you're able to interact with. And in the last version of Central Management 040, when we released this, we also released at the same time a Choco CCM PowerShell module that's available out on the PowerShell gallery. So you can today install module Choco CCM, and that gives you the ability with PowerShell to interact with this API. And we'll do a session on that
tomorrow.
Yeah, we're doing a session on that module tomorrow. So that's kind of Central Management. We'll dive into Central Management a little bit more and get into deployments in just a minute. I also wanted to show off real quick. Let me go. Actually, let me do this. I want to do this in a new tab because I want the Jenkins password. So Jenkins also ships as part of the quick deploy environment. And if we click sign in here, close a couple of these out. I don't need this anymore either. So we can close that. Go away. There we go. We've got a couple of jobs that are pre-configured as part of this appliance as well. We've got this internalized packages from community repository job that is a semicolon separated list of packages from the community repository that you want to bring into your environment internally. So anytime you want to bring something new in, like Firefox or Google Chrome or VS Code or something like that, something that you don't currently have internalized, you can use Jenkins to do that. Now, you can use Choco download and the package internalizer feature outside of Jenkins if you want to. But since this is all set up for you already, you can absolutely use Jenkins for that as well in this job. So if we go into here and just do a quick look and say build with parameters, you can see that we've got that package list and everything is already set up for you in here. Part of that setup script that was a plague earlier at the start of this talk set all of this information up for you and made sure that the host name and API key and all of these different jobs was correct before starting up Jenkins. So what we can do now is just give it a package, and I will try and pick something relatively small. Let's do Git and just click build. And what's that's going to do once this kicks off here, we can click on our console output. And what this is going to do is go out to the community repository, and it's going to attempt to find the Git package on the community repository and internalize that package into our Nexus repository. And depending on how, there we go. So it's done that for the Git package, and it's working on dependencies. As you can see, we've got the Git install package, which is a dependency. Now it's doing Git, and we're attempting to push the Chocolatey core package dependency up to the repository as well. And it looks like everything is going up there just fine. Now, a quick note about Jenkins. Once we go back here and look, this job will push all of the packages to the test repository inside of Nexus. So if we look in here now, we've got Git and we've got our Git install. So when I said internalize Git, Chocolatey went out and found all the dependencies for this package and internalized those as well. So git.install, and it also did Chocolatey core extension and Chocolatey itself. Once this job is done, it will trigger this update production repository job, and that's currently running right now. And what that is going to do is take a look at and do a diff of all the packages that are in test versus all the packages that are in your internal repository. And if there's something newer in your test repository, it's going to go ahead and push that into your production repository. So if we have a look in here now, you can see that we now have Git and Git install inside of our production repository. And then this update test repository job here is something that you would schedule really whenever you want, however frequently you want in your environment. Some folks want to do it every day. Some folks want to do it once a week. Some folks want to do it very, very rarely because they don't have a lot of need to change or upgrade their packages. They're only caring about security findings and things like that. So when there's a CDE or something that they need to patch in an application, that's when they'll bring out a new version of an application. And this job also triggers this update production repository job. If you want in your environments, you can turn off that trigger. So you can come in here and you can say configure as soon as it loads the page. And you can click on this build triggers button up here. And you can trigger that. And it looks like I've already gone in here and turned that off as part of what I did earlier today. So typically this would be turned on and you would specify a job inside of here. Whoops, there I go, hidden buttons. But you might not want to do that. You might want to give yourself time to use whatever testing makes sense in your environment. So you might want to, have a vagrant environment that you spin up, install your packages from test on, and then ensure that those worked. And based on the exit codes of that, bring down that vagrant environment and then push those packages up to production. Or you might want to just do it more manually where you have everything in test, but give yourself 3 or 4 days to test those packages. And then after that 3 or 4 day period, that pipeline can just run on its own schedule and do that push from the test repository to the production repository. So it's super flexible. Just out of the box, we have it configured that every time you run either internalize or update, it will go ahead and trigger a push from your test repository to the production repository. And a lot of our customers leave it that way because they trust our moderation process that we put every single package version that goes up to the community repository through. They're like, you've already tested that a package can install and uninstall without any problems. You've already vetted any binaries that are included in those packages through VirusTotal against 50 or 60 antivirus scanners. And you've also already vetted that all of the PowerShell code included in those packages doesn't contain anything nefarious and follows best practices and is good, clean code. That's good enough for me. So that's good enough for me to just leave those triggers on and trust you guys that that process works. Other customers have a more stringent security posture in their internal environments where that's just not good enough. They need to go out and vet that stuff on their own as well. And they might have other checks that they might need to, yeah, the software works on a vanilla VM, but does the software work against application XYZ being installed alongside of it? Does that all work fine? If that's all good, then yes, we can push it to production and it'll be good. So depending on your environment, leaving those on might not work for you, but it might. So that's why we have it on by default.
Cool.
So that is Nexus and Jenkins and central management. And let's go over here and set up. Actually, why did that ding at me? There we go. What am I looking for? Where's my client PC? There it is. I need a PowerShell window on here. And let's get this client set up to work. And let's.
Ooh, so you are going to check in a client?
Yeah.
Nice.
Medium. I'm going to do a font of 28. Give it listen to console because it's a little easier to see. And there we go. Now I'm going to go out on this website or on this browser. I'm going to go to docs.chocolatey.org. I'm going to flip it to dark mode to save my eyes. I'm going to zoom this in just a little bit so everybody can see what I am doing. And I'm going to look for client setup. And I'm going to scroll down through here. This is our client setup documentation available on our website. There's a link to it in that desktop README on how you can set up your clients to check in with Chocolatey. There's two different scripts or lines of code here on this website when you're not doing an internet-enabled setup. This very first line here is only required if you're using an or a self-signed SSL certificate. If you've got an internally signed CA certificate, or you've bought something from GoDaddy or DigiCert or a service like that, or your Let's Encrypt, those certificates are backed by trusted root CAs. So because Windows trusts those, they can play the game of who are you and go all the way back through the root CAs and inherently trust those certificates. So in that case, you only need this particular script here. Ooh, you know what? I have a sneaky suspicion that I need to fix a host file on this machine before this actually works, because I forgot I have this switched over to work on Azure and not this local VM at this point. C, Windows, yep, system 32, drivers, etc, hosts, yep, and bear with me 1 second. Actually, let's just do this. Computers 2146. Does this work? It does. There we go. Let's do. Yeah, that's good. And one more thing that I forgot to. Zero.co. Make sure you change the host name in that URL coming from our website if you've changed it, because otherwise it will not work. There we go.
Cool. So you're onboarding a client from the actual QDE environment. Nice.
Yeah, so this is connecting up to our QDE environment server, and it's pulling down that Chocolatey install script first, which is what you saw here. And then it's doing the setup of Chocolatey after that. So this is pulling down Chocolatey, licensing it, putting the extension on it, configuring Chocolatey GUI, getting background agent mode set up, configuring it to report into central management, configuring it for deployments. All of that work is being done as part of this setup script. And if we look now, we should see there's Chocolatey GUI installed. So as the script is running, we can see that things are happening. Oh, that's probably because I have that. This is a clone of a server, so I'll have to fix that. But that's not a big deal. Yeah, exactly. All right, let's do this. Let's fix this SC. Delete Chocolatey-agent. And let's do get. Okay. Sorry, folks. I'm having to clean up after myself a little bit because I used a clone and I wasn't planning on doing it this way. C users.
You're handling every curveball like a champ. Hats off to you, sir.
There we go. Don't need that anymore. And we can start. Actually, we'll just wait for this to pull down. There we go. That's more betters. That's what I like to see. So now if we go into Chocolatey GUI, we should see our Chocolatey internal source. And if we flip over to this tile view, which is what I like, and make this a little bigger, we can see all of the applications that are currently available to be installed via Chocolatey. So if I were to double click on this VLC package, for example, we can see all the stuff that was in the new spec in terms of metadata is surfaced to me. I can, as an end user, I can read about the application that I'm going to be installing before I install it. Maybe after I read it, I'm like, well, this sounds like it kind of sucks, so I don't want it. so I don't install that one. So if I click install here, it's going to do that, but that's not very much fun because I am currently logged in as an administrator. So what I'm going to do is say sign out. And as soon as VMware gives me my little thingy back, come on. There we go.
So you're going to sign in as a regular user and show.
Yeah, I'm going to say non-admin. Oops, what did I make this password? All right, so just to prove that I am a non-admin, I'm going to attempt to install VLC. So I'm going to say next through all of this stuff, and I'm going to install this application. And you'll notice it's going to pause here and really not do anything. And then it's just all of a sudden going to finish. And then if I click finish, it doesn't actually load anything. VLC hasn't been installed. It doesn't show up here. If I run appwiz.cpl and look at programs and features, I don't have VLC. Oops, getting ahead of myself. What is this all about? There we go. Now I'm going to launch Chocolatey GUI, go into my internal source, flip this over to this, scroll down. I'm going to read about VLC. Oh, I did something. This is going to die. Boy, the demo gods are really loving me today. All right, bring up Chocolatey GUI one more time. There we go. I was too fast in switching that tab, I have a feeling. So I have the ability to double click on this and then click this install button. Or if I wanted to, I could go back out here, right click on this and say install. That's what I'm going to do. And if we look at the console put, you can see that it says start of agent. That means the Chocolatey agent is actually going to perform the installation of the software. It's running as whatever user that background service is running as. In this instance, that's the Chocolatey local admin account. So if we take and just give this a quick second to run through, it's installing that VLC binary. And in a second, we should see, I think this creates a desktop shortcut. I don't remember off the top of my head if the VLC package has a desktop sort of shortcut or not. And I'm a very impatient person. There it is. There it is. So that's the VLC package now installed. So
Yeah.
we can launch that application. We can see that we have VLC installed now. And because I, as an end user, installed this application, I also have the ability to come in here and uninstall it. Whereas if you as an admin were to come in here and install VLC for me, this would not work. Would not have the option to uninstall this particular application, which is super handy because I'm about to make this guy very unhappy and give him Firefox. And we're going to go over here and do that via a deployment. So I'm going to come into my computers. This should, yep, it checked in for me. So I'm going to create a new group real quick. I'm going to call it client. Give it that client. And then I'm going to come over here to deployments and create a new deployment. And if you saw other things about central management already, you will be well versed in this, or at least have some passing knowledge of it. I'm just going to call this Firefox. And I'm going to add a step to this. I don't want to schedule this. I just want to run it right now. So I'm going to create a regular deployment step. I'm going to make it a basic step, and I'm going to say I want this to be an install of the Firefox package. And for my target groups, I want to install it on that client machine. I'm going to save that, return to my deployment. I've got my deployment created. It's ready to go. I'm going to move that to ready. And then I'm going to click run now. If this were scheduled, this would stay here until that schedule comes on. And then it would kick off. And Rob is saying it's very blurry for him at the moment. I'm not. See, it's really hard for me to tell when it's blurry or not because my window that shows me the stream is clear.
Yeah, so I'm seeing it as blurry here too, Stevie. I'm also hearing a little bit of an echo. I will just say right up front that I think if folks, sorry about the blurriness and some of the challenges here. We also have a video series available that I'll point to in a link in a second as well. As soon as Stevie wraps this up, we'll transition over to the last little bit.
Yeah. So this deployment is currently running against that client machine. By default, agents check in for a new deployment every 3 minutes. So depending on where we're at in that 3-minute window here, it might be a minute, it might be 2 minutes before this deployment actually kicks off. And this window will automatically refresh in this latest version of central management. So you don't need to worry about refreshing to see this change. It will refresh periodically. But I am going to go over to here and just wait because I should see Firefox show up once it starts to install it as well. And I apologize, I haven't been paying any attention to the chat, so if there's questions or anything, let me know.
We can loop step people in after for sure. And again, okay, you can submit your questions on those the day questions. The day 12 would be the best one probably for QDE.
Awesome. Yeah.
So just ch0.co/day12 questions.
Yeah, so I must have kicked this off like right as it checked in. It's going to make me wait 3 minutes.
So while you're waiting, can I just cut in for a second and transition away and we can come back to you, Stevie?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Cool. So I'm just going to mention a couple of things while we have you guys. You can see over here that we have QDE V2 setup videos. So this is a video playlist that actually walks you through all the different steps of what you saw today in great detail. So Gary breaks down each in an individual piece of it. So ch0.co/QDE-videos is the link for that. And we for sure will work on the lag issues, folks, and the pixelated stuff. Sorry about that. Definitely going to address that in future days. And this is the whole process has been a real good learning experience for us for future stuff too as well. Can everybody hear me okay? Stevie, can you hear me? Stevie, can you hear me? No? Hello? Okay, awesome. Sounds good. Looks like I can hear some people can hear me fine. So in ch0.co/org, of course, is that other approach that we talked about, which is the distributed approach, all the pieces separately. So an important thing to mention there as well. We have the ability to set it up in a distributed environment as well. And so I'm just going to drop the survey link in the chat here, so that you guys can get it going with that, and then we'll slide back to Stevie. Stevie, you there? So we can't hear you there, Stevie. Can everybody hear Stevie okay? Is it just me? So it looks like your deployment was green now with Firefox, so that's awesome. Not sure what's happening there, folks.
Can you hear me now, guys?
Now I can hear you. Now I can hear you. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Stevie. You can speak to that.
Seems like my audio
Stevie, can you hear me?
is coming through. There we go. Perfect. All right. So as you can see on the screen here, we've got this Firefox package installed. So what this ran, I saw a question come through on the chat here, where I believe it was Darren asked whether this was performed by a non-admin user or an admin user. So the Chocolatey agent service is what actually performs the installation of this package via a deployment. So whatever user that background service is running as is the user that you will see installed that application. And you can see that a little better if you do a Chocolist local only -- audit on a client. And we look at this, you've got the package name, the version, the user that installed it, and then the original user is the user that requested it. So if Joe, the user who's a non-admin, went into Chocolatey GUI and installed Firefox, original user would be Joe, but the background user, Chocolatey local admin, would be listed as the user that installed the application.
Awesome. Yeah, folks were just chiming in about being able to hear us okay. Stevie, can you hear me?
And with that, I am out of content. That is everything inside of QDE. All in one, simple to use, easy appliance for you guys to bring in. Apologies that the demo gods weren't very nice to us today.
Yeah, apparently not.
99% of the time that thing just works.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. So just going to transition away. Thanks so much, Stevie, for your time. If you can hear me okay. Just want to say that we have some more content coming for these next days. Tomorrow's going to be that Choco CCM module, so a really good one. Again, we dropped those question links. We'll tweet those out as well for you to be able to drop questions in there. And without further ado, we'll see you back here tomorrow. So have a safe evening, y'all. Afternoon or morning, whichever one it is for you. And on behalf of me and Stevie, thank you for your time so much, and thank you for sharing it with us. Again, apologies on the connection issues, and hopefully we'll work on this overnight and have something better for you tomorrow. So thanks so much for your time. Bye for now.